We're getting near the end of the year, and everybody's going to be looking back at this year, but I want to look forward a little bit. Hi folks, it's Falcon, and today on gameranx, the 30 best upcoming games announced in 2018. Now we have to do a quick disclaimer in that Resident Evil 2, Last of Us Part 2, Cyberpunk 2077, Anthem, Crackdown, Days Gone, Death Stranding, Kingdom Hearts 3, Metro Exodus, Ghosts of Tsushima, etc., aren't going to be included in this list because they weren't announced in 2018. We are specifically talking about games that were announced this past year. So with that in mind, let's get going. Number 30 is Babylon's Fall. It's not a game that we know a massive amount about, but we do know it is a Platinum Games project, and that tells us at least a few things. A, that it will contain the classic Platinum Games gameplay, refined of course, and after Nier maybe expanded upon. Nier really brought a lot of new stuff to the table as far as Platinum Games stuff goes. But so did Metal Gear Revengeance. It seems to focus on a war between two heavily armored factions, and other than looking awesome, that's about all I really can tell you about it. It's a Platinum Games game. I'm gonna play it. I'm probably gonna like it. Number 29 is Battletoads. Now again, this is one that we don't have a hell of a lot of information on. In fact, there are a few more in this list we think they're worth mentioning just because of what they are, what they seem like they are. But with Battletoads, I know what I'm hoping it is. Like, I don't want them messing with the old school Battletoads gameplay a whole lot. It's pretty damn good. It's one of the better beat-em-ups there is. But on the other hand, I would not mind some nice new graphics, of course some online co-op, but I'm also going to want to play this with my friends on the couch. And I really hope that the level design ends up being up to the standards of today without forsaking what Battletoads was back then. I can't wait. I love Battletoads. Number 28 is Wolfenstein Youngblood, which is a co-op exclusive down the line in the timeline game in which you will play as the daughters of B.J. Blazkowicz in the 1980s. So I'm guessing we're going to see some pretty cool neon color palettes, but I'm guessing they're also going to be fairly Nazi-ized, so to speak. I mean, let's be honest here. What could be more fun than killing Nazis in the 1980s with a really cool, like, cyberpunk color palette and robots? Like, it's gonna be great. I'm literally positive it's gonna be great. Number 27 is Far Cry New Dawn, which is the first direct sequel ever in the Far Cry franchise, and if I'm totally honest, I do think it's probably the story that I thought would be the most interesting to continue. And they picked the most interesting ending to continue from. It's 17 years after the nuclear ending of Far Cry 5, and the world seems not particularly forgiving of our friend Joseph Seed, and also there's been a nuclear apocalypse. Now, what I like about this is it somehow manages to place Far Cry in the same territory as Fallout, but with an engine that works. I know that's a little harsh, but I think Bethesda deserves it, and I also think the color palette for everything I've already seen of Far Cry New Dawn just looks more visually interesting than Fallout. So there. I also think if they manage to introduce some newer elements, that'd be really good, because as good as Far Cry 5 is, it's very samey. That being said, the story was enjoyable, and I think that it will be enjoyable to continue it, and I know I'm certainly curious. Number 26 is Jump Force, a very promising looking fighting game where the real world, quote-unquote, collides with the Shonen Jump universes, which includes quite a few different franchises, from One Piece to Dragon Ball to Naruto, even to Death Note. Honestly, I think that it's gonna be good. We don't have much on it other than it's a fighting game with all of this stuff, and that's great. I'm looking forward to it. Number 25 is The Last Campfire, which is a new puzzle adventure kind of wandering title from Hello Games, which was intended as a means for some of the developers to explore some creative ideas. It gives me some Journey vibes, and that doesn't piss me off at all. It's got gorgeous cel-shaded graphics, honestly, just a very pretty looking, kind of retro but kind of not visual style. Pretty music, pretty visuals. It's an adventure game, and it looks nothing like No Man's Sky. That's not necessarily a positive or a negative. It looks like just something completely new from them. That's what I'm saying, and honestly, I'm excited. They've turned No Man's Sky into something that is in my opinion, pretty respectable. So I'd like to see them try new things. I will play The Last Campfire. Number 24 is Journey to the Savage Planet, which is an indie game from the Far Cry 4 director Alex Hutchinson, who launched a indie studio called Typhoon Studios. And it's a game that looks interesting. It's got a lot of humor. It introduces a kind of slimy sounding corporation trying to explore space that you work for. They brag about being the 4th best interstellar exploration company, which I think is a great touch. Clearly, you've been stranded on a savage planet, and although it's been billed as an exploration game, we also have to make the assumption it is in some ways a survival game. It looks interesting. I want to know more about it, but as of right now, my curiosity is definitely piqued, so Journey to the Savage Planet it is. Number 23 is The Pathless. It's an adventure game starring a hunter who ends up against various different types of creatures. It's a beautiful looking game with an amazing color palette. We've seen various animals, we've seen the forest, we've seen running, we've seen hunting, but I will tell you the thing we haven't seen is exactly what this is. In a lot of ways, it looks like there's a lot of running, sneaking, and facing off against really cool looking supernatural monsters, and a bird I'm at least a little bit partial towards. We'll see. I'm very excited for this. I think it looks very cool. Number 22 is Crash Team Racing. If you remember this game from the 90s, you know what it is. It's kind of competition for Mario Kart, and being Mario Kart has survived all these years and really no other kart racing series exactly like it has emerged. It makes sense to me that in remastering the Crash series, you would see a remaster of Crash Team Racing because it is in every way a genuine piece of competition for Mario Kart. And now having it look really great just seems like a natural idea to me. I loved Crash Team Racing. I'm really looking forward to getting back into it. Number 21 is Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3, The Black Order, which we found out will actually be a Nintendo Switch exclusive, developed by Team Ninja. Obviously, what we have to go off of as far as what the game will play like are the previous games, where you select a team of 4 from usually a fair number of superheroes from the Marvel world, where you essentially kind of hack and slash, kind of action RPG your way through Marvel stuff. Now this one seems very oriented towards superheroes that are in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and beyond that we don't have a lot, other than the previous games are actually quite good. So another one? Sure, yes, that's great, thank you. Number 20 is Mortal Kombat 11. Now we all know that Mortal Kombat has been a storied series, but let's just be clear, Mortal Kombat 11 looks cool. We didn't really see any gameplay per se, but we also know that the gameplay in Mortal Kombat actually looks nearly as good as the trailers. I mean, it's a pretty game series at this point, despite its sort of over-the-top and gory nature. There is one thing we've seen in the trailer that is worth noting. Scorpion dies and then comes back in a Mortal Kombat 2 era costume, which is very interesting. Are they trying to signify some sort of return to form? Which, honestly, the gameplay isn't bad. They could just dump the microtransactions and I would consider it a return to form. But we'll see. Honestly, buying fatalities, though. Get rid of that and we're good. Number 19 is The Surge 2, which to me is looking like a good thing. The Surge is great. I enjoy the hell out of it. It's a Souls-like set in a totally different universe, totally different kinds of technology, doesn't rely on magic at all, is a little bit faster paced. This time around, apparently, the game takes place in a much larger arena, specifically a large, well, post-life city, let's just say. One that's been decimated, and the gameplay intends to expand on the limb targeting system. So, for me, that's great. Number 18 is The Division 2, which is The Division 2. Like, there's parts of The Division that I quite like, and I kind of hope that that is maybe the stuff that ends up being the groundwork for Division 2, but we'll see. This is on this list more because of the possibility. Ubisoft did pretty well with the recent Far Cry game. Like I said, it was a bit samey, but they handled like the story elements a little better than usual, I think. And they seem to be trying to take on criticism, so my hope is that manifests in The Division 2, because The Division was such a cool idea. Number 17 is Luigi's Mansion 3, which a lot of people mistook for a Switch port it's not. It's a fully new Luigi's Mansion game, which is more than just a little cool. Now, if you've ever played Luigi's Mansion, you know it's about taking on ghosts with a vacuum, which is hilarious. And the previous two games were very goofy and silly and very fun in their own right. Luigi just creeps around scared of everything while you suck up ghosts with a vacuum. I'm there for more of it. Number 16 is Rage 2, which if you remember the first Rage, it was a little disappointing, but not because it was bad, but it really wasn't great all the time. It had a lot of plateaus, let's just say. I didn't actually assume that Rage would get a sequel, but they're working with Avalanche Studios, the studio who obviously does the Just Cause games, and they're just like, let's give it a neon color palette to show that we're trying something new here, and just let's go. Number 15 is Judge Eyes. It's very likely not going to be called Judge Eyes, but apparently Judgment outside of Japan. I'm not 100% sure on that. I've seen it a couple of places, but not a lot of talk about it. Yakuza developer Ryuga Gotoku Studio, and it's probably decent to assume that it's got similar gameplay as Yakuza, but a bit of a different kind of story, which sounds like a pretty good formula to me. Number 14 is Dead or Alive 6. It was 2012 the last time a Dead or Alive fighting game came out, and honestly, it's kind of cool to see the series continue. Team Ninja has apparently built a new engine for this, and are hoping to move into the esports area with this, but they aren't abandoning the single-player campaign, what they're attempting to call a cohesive narrative with the attempt to sort of streamline the story elements of the game. I hope that all of these efforts come together well, because Dead or Alive is a fun series. Number 13 is Control from Remedy Entertainment, which looks a lot like Quantum Break in a lot of aspects. Remedy Entertainment is a great developer. They made Max Payne and Max Payne 2, Alan Wake, and like I said, Quantum Break. It is about somebody who goes through a traumatic childhood experience that gives her unexplained supernatural powers, and given the developer, I'm definitely looking forward. Number 12 is Doom Eternal, which looks to continue with the sort of making fun of the corporate blandness that would likely happen during a demon invasion. Also, we've seen, in my opinion, the most important part, a grappling hook on a shotgun. That's really, in my opinion, if you know how good Doom 2016 is, and you think that plus shotgun with grappling hook on it, that's what Doom Eternal looks like to me, and I am so there for that. Basically, all of my assumptions are that it would be very difficult for this to be a bad game. Number 11 is Starfield, a game from Bethesda that does look very cool despite still running on the Creation Engine. Oh yeah, I'm gonna say that with every Bethesda game from now on, because I think that's the thing that they need harped on the most. But that being said, it does look like a Bethesda-style RPG in space, which we do not have. I mean, the Outer Worlds is going to happen, but we'll talk about that later. We've really got a very vague, visual-oriented trailer with some large craft and some pretty effects. Number 10 is Gears 5, which we know what Gears of War plays like at this point, but we do know a little bit about the story for this one. In the previous game, Kate Diaz was kind of like the Furiosa to JD's Max, in that the story was more about her, so they've made it so that she's the protagonist. Now, JD, Marcus Phoenix, and Delmont are going to still be in this game, but the main purpose of it is mainly centered around finding out about Kate Diaz's origins. Now, Gears 4 got some criticism for dragging sometimes, but I thought it was a pretty high quality game, and I think that they'll probably take that criticism on. I look forward to this. Number 9 is Dragon Age, and if you want to talk about games we know pretty much nothing about, Dragon Age. We know there's a Dragon Age coming, Dragon Age 4. We know that Solus is probably involved, and there's some theories going around, but they're based on, like, in my opinion, very thin stuff that could be true. I'm not gonna crap on them, but this isn't a theory video. This is talking about upcoming games, and Dragon Age is on the way. Number 8 is Devil May Cry 5, which the more we learn about, the better it looks. Like, let's be clear, this is probably the Capcom game that people have wanted out of Capcom since forever. Resident Evil 7 was great and kind of a big return to form on that series, but if you say, hey, what do you want Capcom to do? Other than a new Mega Man, which we already got, it's pretty much Devil May Cry 5, like an original series continuation, which this is. It's basically the series that, in a lot of ways, inspired Platinum Games to happen. Of course, a couple of other titles lay claim to some of that legacy, but still. Number 7 is Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, which takes place after Revenge of the Sith, is a single-player only game and will be lightsaber-oriented. Now, how close that will place it to The Force Unleashed, I don't know, but I loved The Force Unleashed. Respawn is developing it, and their previous big games were Titanfall and Titanfall 2, which they're good. Believe me, I have confidence in them, but I do look forward to finding out exactly what this is, because I think it could be something very good. Number 6 is Sekiro Shadows Die Twice, which a lot of people are kind of looking at as a possible, at least spiritual successor to Tenku that From Software, the owners of that intellectual property, have been doing with it, while also sticking closer to their more regular fare. It does look very much along the lines of a faster Dark Souls with a grappling hook, and I want that desperately. Number 5 is Dying Light 2, the sequel to the first-person survival horror, which is apparently a little more focused on creating a non-linear narrative. It looks as though they're completely going to have the zombies out of the picture during the day, but they are all around the place at night. In my opinion, probably a good idea because it can provide a kind of rhythm that Dying Light, the original, sort of hints at. Obviously, the zombies kind of suck during the day in the game, but why have them around if that's the case? There's certainly other things we would have to deal with in such a scenario, so make it possible to deal with them with parkour. Number 4 is Neo 2, which if you played Neo, you know what it is. It's a kind of more historical take. Although, granted, keep in mind, it's definitely historical fiction, but it's grounded in some things. On the Dark Souls type game, it's better designed than a lot of other Dark Souls styled games. It's also paced really well, and I think that that's what it really gets right, and I look forward to ducking into that world once again. Number 3 is Elder Scrolls 6, which as of right now will be on the Creation Engine, but it's also a new Elder Scrolls game that's single player and exactly what we all want out of Bethesda, let's be completely honest. I can't wait for any details on Elder Scrolls 6, any of them at all. Number 2 is Halo Infinite, which will absolutely be a Master Chief game. They have made that explicitly clear as they've been talking about this game, but they've also told us Master Chief is going to be looking a little different, but probably, I have to imagine, not a lot different. I'm still very interested in exactly what that means. It's also apparently going to be an ambitious open world game, which I very much hope doesn't mean they make a world that's too big for its own britches and is actually dense and lived in and not just a bunch of big empty spaces. I'll say I have faith though. And finally, number 1, The Outer Worlds, coming to us courtesy of Obsidian, developers of Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic 2 and Fallout New Vegas, 2 of the better games, period. The Outer Worlds is a spiritual successor to Fallout New Vegas, and it looks like everything that Fallout should be. After Fallout 76, this was a palate cleanser for me. It made me excited. Now, one piece of information I've learned about is that the world apparently will not be the size of Fallout 76's, which doesn't bother me at all. I made it clear on the last game we talked about, I care more about density and lived-in feel and engagement with the world, so I have a feeling that's the reason. I'm happy to put this at number 1. This is easily the game I'm most excited for in this entire list. How about for you, though? What are you most excited upcoming? It doesn't have to be directly in 2019, could be further into the future. Leave us a comment, let us know what you're thinking, and if you like this video, click like. If you're not subscribed, now's a great time to do so. We upload brand new videos every day of the week, and the best way to see them first is, of course, a subscription. As always, we thank you very much for watching this video. I'm Falcon. You can follow me on Twitter at FalconTheHero, and we'll see you next time right here on gameranx.